分享会场次。那接着下来发表的是我们国立新庄高级中学的刘丽湘刘老师，然后接着是我们同样一个学校的蓝唯甄老师。那我们先热烈欢迎的刘丽湘老师，谢谢。
Okay, morning everyone, Helen, my fellow teachers, and everyone here. Okay, it's really very difficult to stay here, to stand here for the first one. You see, I'm very nervous. Okay, so I will stand behind this podium. Otherwise, you will see my shaking legs and hands. Actually, I have to handle this computer by myself, so I will also stay here. Okay. So when you look at this first PPT, you may wonder what's that? ITEPDP. Okay, you will understand now. Okay, it actually means International Teacher Education Professional Development Program. I don't know who make up this name, but it's very long. Okay, so you see, now that's what we are doing here. Okay, and okay, I'm going to introduce the outline of my presentation. Okay, first I will talk about what impresses me most in SFU, and second, I will introduce my students, and third, my challenges and adaptations, fourth, the syllabus design sharing, and finally, my reflection. Okay. Next, what impresses me most, actually, grouping and the posters are what we use most in learning there, okay? And of course, Helen has already explained a lot about how to teach and learn, so I will skip this part. And I think people there, they emphasized collaborative learning and multi-intelligence very much, because collaborative learning is very important. It can enhance the positive interdependence between learners, and that's what we learn from everyone. When we were in SFU, we always have to share our different individual resources, and we will also take different roles, and we have to finish tasks, and also this rewards our individual and group accountability very much, and then we will build very good relationship. Okay, it's a community in classroom. Okay, and then this is what we are doing. And I can say that we are using language to learn rather than learning language. This is very important. And I have to go back because I forgot something to show you. Okay, multi-intelligence. Actually, there is a picture here we get in SFU. Okay, in this picture we can see we don't really only learn by using our brain only. Actually, we can also learn through sensing, watching, thinking, and doing something. And so learning can be visual, auditory, tactile, and kinesthetic. Okay, so this is a very important idea. Later, when I came back to Taiwan, I just applied some of this into my classroom. And then, sorry again, using language to learn rather than learning language. Okay, this is what I murmured in my mind. Okay, so I have to go back to the earth, go down back to the earth and face my students. And this is my target students. I have 42 classrooms. They are second grader, and then their PR level are around 80 to 87, and their language proficiency is around intermediate. Okay, quite all. And also, most important of all, they are a good number of passive reader. I believe everybody has the same problem. Okay. Okay, next. So, my ultimate concern actually is how to get my students more involved in classroom, and how can I help them to learn more independently. So I have some challenge when these ideas encounters reality. First, big classes. Okay, so what we learn here, what we learn in SFU is we can group our students into small groups, and the one I use most is pair my students up. It's really very convenient. The students just turn around and they find their partners to work together. And then the second one is that their fear for speaking English is really very big. So actually, if we can divide students into groups, they can share in groups. They don't need to stand in front of the whole class and speak out. That actually help a lot. So in groups, teamwork can reduce anxiety really. So they feel safe. Okay? And then the third one is their language proficiency levels are actually very different. Okay? So collaborative learning is good because when they work in group, they can help each other to read or to write. Of course, they will speak, but we can tolerate they speak Chinese actually in classroom. Otherwise, you cannot make them speak anything. Okay. Okay, and then multi-intelligence. This way can also help us to cater to different students' needs. They have different interests. They have different talents. So if some student is not good at writing or reading, they can help by drawing some pictures, and they can also do some acting for the group. Okay, and then my question about this is actually based on our instruction is actually a teacher-centered one. And how can we make it more learner-centered? And then we teacher can be only a facilitator, and the student can be more independent and more responsible for their learning. Under a very small scale planning, I do it still. I give some small activity in every classes, every lesson, okay. And then I have to do a lot of modeling, and also give them very explicit instructions, give them rules how to do it. And this is offering more guidance for each activity. For example, the first one I use is I use my name tag, which I made in SFU, a very beautiful one. I forgot to bring it here. And then I give my students color paper and ask them to draw their own name tag. And then I will model a brief self-introduction for them and show them how to do it. And then they have to turn around to introduce them to their partner, because in the second grader, they will be rearranged to a new classroom, so they don't know each other. Most of them don't know each other. So I just modeling this and give them chance to talk to their partner. And then after this kind of sharing, because I don't have too much time, I cannot let them go around the whole classroom and do some bingo, something like 九宫格, something like that. Then I just ask them to go to the stage and do the self-introduction. And this really changed the traditional way, because the traditional way is very boring. The student just say, sometimes you don't know what they are murmuring. And this way, they use the name tag and show you what they like, and you can also see their talents. It's a little bit like show something and tell people, show and tell, okay? And then still I have the pressure and the expectation from the exams. So still I can only apply only one small activity to one lesson during one monthly test period. So I have also to enhance my learning by giving students some vocabulary and grammar handouts. And also I use graphic organizers. For example, these grammar handouts. Okay, grammar handouts like this. I have to give them more handouts to learn language, and then also graphic organizer. Okay. So graphic organizers can be characterized as follows. The first one is the one I like most. It's story map. Sometimes our textbook will provide some stories for students to read, and I think it's very interesting. So I go Google and find some very useful and beautiful graphic organized, and I just adjust it, and then my student can use it. For example, this one, it will help students to find the setting, the characters, and the events, the problems, and the solutions. Okay, and then also some other like this story map. It's like asking students the background knowledge, and then they have to describe the sequence of the events, the beginning, middle, and end, and also their reflections too. Okay, and some very basic, just like this. Okay, I have used all of this in my classroom already. And then there are many kinds of graphical organizers like this. And 5 WH questions chart can help students to ask questions, and a lot of time sequence organizers, and the chain event organizer, and also some exposition articles. You have to help students to find the facts, to compare and contrast. It's also very good and easy to use. Okay, and this is okay. And after quite a while, after I have trained my students for a while, then I started to ask them to do their own job. They don't need me to provide them any graphic organizers. They can draw by themselves, and this is their works. Okay, I think the content is not important, but the color is very pleasant. I watch them and I feel, oh, so beautiful. My students work very hard. Try to make myself feel, oh, they are good students. Okay. Wow. Okay, so to sum up, my strategies and adaptations is, first, I have to help them to learn, to share, but offer them sense of safety. It's very important. And second, my teaching plan should be very well organized, because of this, I have to offer more guidance, give them more rules. And then, most important, we have to ask students to do activity, but they have to complete some tasks. It's not just play and chat. It's not a good way, because students will think, oh, I like activities because I can just fool around, right? It's very important to ask students to give us some spoken or written outcome. It's very important. And so now I'm going to share my syllabus. Okay, the first one is from Samin, English textbook, book 3, lesson 2. Actually, this is in the very beginning of the semester. Last semester, I do this after I finish teaching the reading part. And the activity I use is think, pair, share, and the mailing to music. This is inspired by Helen, actually, mailing to music, very good one. Okay, this one is to think and pair up and then share their ideas. Students have to think. So I give them very handy one. Just look at the textbook. They choose one question to answer from 2 of the questions for discussion. And this is the questions for discussion from the textbook. The first one is to share with the class some Taiwanese traditions or customs that are related to food. The second one is, what is the strangest food that you've ever heard of? Would you try it? Why or why not? Okay. Then they have to think. Then I will provide them paper to write on it. And then they stand up, started to share. Okay. And finally, they have to go to the respective poster, because there are 2 posters. One is in front of the classroom, another one is in the back. So at this time, I have to play the music. And what is mailing to music? Actually, this is what I ask students to do. When they hear music, they stand up and start to have a conversation with others by asking their answer for their answer. And also, they have to chat until the music stops. Then, the music stops again, they have to change partner. Finally, when the music stops, they have to stop the conversation. That I will signal them, tell them to paste their notes on the poster. And this is their work. And also, some smaller parts of it. Okay, the second syllabus design is lesson 8. It's a before reading activity. Okay, basically it's about jigsaw. Okay, I divided students into 7 groups. Actually, a row is a group. Okay, and then they will get an envelope with segments of a complete story. Okay, and then they have to sequence it and then paste them in the correct answer on the poster again. Okay, you see, poster is also really very useful. Before, when I was in SFU, I think, oh, out of date. Why not computer? But later I find it's really very useful. And you see, our equipment cannot provide us, every student, one, for example, iPad. It's impossible, right? So it's very handy for them to just write on papers and do the collaborative work together. Yes. And then this jigsaw is actually, because of the lesson, is about Thanksgiving. This is what I find from a book called Festival Teaching by published by Cave Bookstore. Okay, it's a story of Thanksgiving, and then I just cut it into small pieces. Okay, so then students will do their work together, and then if the first one and get the correct answer, they will win scores for their group. Okay, and after I teach the reading, I also do another two activities. The first one is ask them to also do some drawing and writing. This is what my student did. What are you thankful for this year? They have to draw 5 things and then write down what they are thankful for. Okay, and then I also ask them to do some acting, because it's because that actually it's our school tradition that we will hold the drama contest every year. So I want to see which student in my classroom were talented for acting. So I try to do this activity too, because it's a story about Thanksgiving. So I just do this kind of activity, and students have to do it. Yeah, but actually I don't think it's a very successful activity. Later I will share with you why. And then third, lesson 4, it's about graphic organizer. And this is what I did for my students. Okay, it's an exposition work. And this is one of the students' work. And then lesson 6 is a very important lesson because it's about global warming. And there are many facts about before and after or something. So it's an article of compare and contrast. So I give students some handout to work together. It's also a pair work, cause and effect match. Something happened and what's the result? Okay. And then my highlight of teaching is actually about collaborative learning, because before I teach them the reading, I will give them some films to see, to watch, and then also I have to divide students into 7 groups, and this is the whole work here. Like lesson 6, this is the PowerPoint I do for my students. 百万小学堂, are you smarter than an elementary school? It's not actually an inquiry, but it's a pre-inquiry training. Just I will show them how to ask questions, but it's a kind of contest. And there are rules, and really go because it's a competition and question. After they see the 3 choices, they will have to raise their hand and tell me which one is the correct one. And they work in a group, so they help each other to win the prize. Actually, I will try always give them some prize or scores to make them very active. Okay. And then okay, I still have to use graphic organize and some handouts to help them further comprehend the text. And it's very important for students to preview the reading before class. And for this lesson, I encountered some challenges from students. Only a couple of students hope that I won't do this kind of activity again, because they think they want me to cram them more. Okay, yes. Okay, lesson 9 is another very wonderful story about Chaplin, Charlie Chaplin. And I have an organizer. first I give them an organizer to summarize the text. Actually, organizer is very good for helping learner to read some facts and organize it, structure it, and also help them to outline or do some writing. So after the teaching, I give them also another graphic organizer to help them outline their writing. And this is the one I want them to write. I hope they to write an event that is the most memorable one in their life. So they have to tell me when and where and what happened, who was involved, and also the events, when, what happened, and then the problem they encounter, and finally how they solve the problem. And then they have to write an article for me, okay? And finally, my reflections is that all of these activities and the methods of teaching is really good, because variety is the spice of learning, actually. And also another one is Tableau. Tableau actually it's not easy for my students, even though they are intermediate. I think most of them are low intermediate in speaking, I mean, okay? So it's not easy for them to speak something satisfactory. And it's not easy for teacher to control a big class when the group go up and the other 6 groups are playing sometimes. And so next time if I want to play Tableau, I would adjust it as a series of silent action play. For example, Phantom of the Opera. If I divided it into 7 scenes, students will just pause. When I say 1, they pause for the first scene, and then 2, and just like shut very quickly, right? Shut. So I will change it, and students don't need to speak at all. Okay. Okay, and then graphic organizer is good. I will use it. Okay. Although some students think they have too much homework. Okay. But still, I will use it. And finally, we were asked to do some evaluation after we come back here. So before the class, I have already do another evaluation, and this one is after the class. And most students answer that they like it. Okay. They think it's very fun and rewarding because they have time to talk and get feedback from friends. But still, just like a few minutes ago, I mentioned in a class, a couple of students, they say that they hope that I can just teach them the textbook. Don't do activities. Still, a couple of students will have this kind of advice. And so I found I have to adjust my way to different classrooms. Some class, they like to act, they like to play, they like to speak. I will do more activity. And also, if I have more time, I will do more. But some class, for example, 第二类组, they don't have much time. So I will just teach a textbook, okay? And this is my conclusion. Tell me and I'll forget. Show me and I may not remember. Involve me and I may understand. It's by Confucius, okay? Okay, and I am very thankful for your attention and thank you.
morning, everyone. Good morning. Okay, I'm waiting for it.
Okay. Okay, so let's take a look at this first. Can I play it? Here. Okay, so this is my plan. It's a plan for the whole semester. Yeah, and it's focused on a plan focused on 12th grade Examinants. Because when last year I went to Canada, and after I go back, I have to take 3 new classes, and they are all 12th graders, and I don't know them at all. Okay, and they have never been trained to write. So there is a critical issue for me. That is, how can I construct their ability to write stories within 3 months, because they need to take the government exam in winter. Yeah. So that's what I focus on. It's quite practical. So is there any teacher who are teaching 11th graders or 12th graders here? Yeah, some of you. Okay, so I hope this will be helpful for you. Okay, so let's see. Okay, here is where I got the inspiration. It's from Teaching Writing by Sheila Ronsley, a teacher that all of us like very much. Okay, so in this unit, she asked us to write an article. The topic is a happy moment. And the teaching procedure is, first of all, we need to brainstorm, and then we do peer sharing, and the teacher will model us how to write. Okay, so these are pre-writing activities, and then we write, and then Sheila gave us feedback, and then we rewrite. Okay, that's the model. Okay, that's what I copied and put in my classroom. Okay, so let's see. Brainstorming. Well, usually when I tell my students to brainstorm for something, the problem I have is that they don't know what to brainstorm about, so they don't know what to write down. Okay, but here is a good way, because Sheila gave us a sheet. It's called 4 quadrants, and on each quadrant there's something to brainstorm about. Okay, your thoughts, well, at that moment, and your feelings at that moment. And the sight, sounds, taste, smells, touches, what you feel at that moment. And some words to remember. It can be some dialogues. Okay, so we spend a couple of minutes writing down all the ideas, and then we share. Okay, and I think the advantage of 4 quadrants is that it provides students directions to brainstorm, okay, before they start to write a story. Okay, and later I will talk about how I adapt this part in my own class. Okay, so, and then we share based on what we have written down. And, well, at this moment, we're not very clear about what we're going to tell the story, but we just share. And in the process, during the process while telling a story, we organize it. Okay, so well, I think peer sharing helps writers to organize their stories before they start to write, and the process decreases the anxiety and the fear of writing. And also, it provides a very good chance for practicing oral language. Now, I can combine speaking and writing together in one lesson, or maybe 1 hour, okay? And then Sheila modeled how she was going to, what she wrote in the 4 quadrants, and how she organized all the ideas into a story. Okay, and then we write for about 20 to 30 minutes. And after we finished writing, it was about lunch break, and there's something very amazing. Sheila finished marking our paper during the lunch break. That's very effective for me, because, well, for me as a high school English teacher, I need to spend maybe 1 week correcting all the student papers. Yeah, and when I give the paper back to them, they already forgot what they wrote about. And it would take more time for them to, to remember all those things and to reflect upon it. So I think it's very effective. And this is the marking she left. Okay, it's not very clear here, but she only wrote a little bit like, oh, here she said it's an interesting lead.
Okay, and I said, well, this is my first paragraph. I said, it was September, and the guy who's going to marry me was on her first journey of pursuing a girl. So she reminded me that, asked me to describe the setting rather than starting the month, because the month doesn't matter to the reader. Okay, and she told me to cut out some details and build it with less details, and she just crossed out the last paragraph. Okay, it's useless. So let's see. In giving feedback, she will first of all found the pattern and focused on it.
So she was like this. She was holding all our paper. Okay, and she will read one very good example to show us what a good story should sound like. Okay, and then a few other examples she will read and tell us why the lead is inappropriate or not very interesting to the reader, and she will choose another sentence from that article and say that, well, I think this will be a better lead. So she showed us several examples so that we get an idea about what we are going to rewrite about. And then she distributes the paper to each of us and have a very short talk with us, one-on-one, about maybe 10 seconds, and point out the most important thing to rewrite in our article, in our story. Okay, yeah. And the package found was that our stories lack good leads and contains too many unnecessary details. Okay, so share examples and return it to us one-on-one individually. Okay, so this is yours. Okay, so then we were asked to rewrite. I forget if before or after we rewrite, she gave us some very good example of how we can create an interesting lead. And it's all on your handout, so I'm not going to read it. You can
read it on your own. So she showed us what a typical lead looked like, okay, and how it can be changed to start everything with action, like a main character doing something. I got my meal, pushed it away from the table, and bolted out of the kitchen, slamming the screen door behind me, blah, blah, blah. Or started with a dialogue. The main character or character speaking. Scott, get down here on the double. Dad bellowed. His voice sounded far away. Dad, I hollered. Where are you? I squinted through the screen door but couldn't see him. Okay. Or reaction, a character thinking. I couldn't imagine why my father was hollering for me at 7 in the morning. I thought fast, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so that's the character thinking. So she showed us several different ways to start a story, and then we rewrite the story. Okay, about, well, I think another 10 or 20 minutes, and then we share it again in our small group, and then she asked some of us to share in the big group. Okay, that's the whole process. So one thing, the most important thing I learned is that once students are clear about what should be changed, they can revise on their own. Yeah, I think the biggest mistakes I made in the past was I focused on the grammatic mistakes or the spelling or some very detailed things, and every student, each of them make different mistakes. I cannot handle with all of them. So when I just focus on the details, they don't have the big idea, a big picture, how a good writing should be like. Okay, so this time I'm going to change this. I'm going to give them some big ideas about how they can modify their own writing. Okay, and I learned that brainstorming and discussion might be time-consuming but very worthy. And modeling is necessary because it communicates teachers' expectations and demonstrates what should be done and how should it be done. And sometimes, well, as a teacher, maybe I'm not a very good writer, I can still borrow some materials from authentic reading. Authentic reading can replace the teacher's modeling. And when students have a model to look at, they know exactly what their writing are expected to look like. Okay, and the feedback is much more useful than grading. When we give feedback, it's important to focus on only one thing or two, okay? And giving feedback one-on-one can be very helpful, even though there are only a few seconds. But the students are they will feel like they are being attended to, yeah, and they know that the teacher knows them. They understand what the teacher wants them to do, and then they can do it again. Okay, but there are some difficulties in application. First of all, I only have 1 or at most 2 hours, but Sheila has 3 hours every week in her writing class. I come up to her and ask her how much time she spent every week to train her student to write a complete story. That's a whole semester and 3 hours in every week. I don't have so much time. And I need to correct 127 copies. Yeah, and that's too much. So the solution is, well, I wished at the time that if I can make the point explicit enough, students can give themselves or each other feedback and rewrite, and I don't have to, maybe sometimes I don't have to read all their stories. They know the criteria and they can make some changes. Okay, so here is my plan. The goal is to help students be really aware of what makes a good story and write better. First of all, the organization of the school story and how can they get ideas and content. What is a good starting or lead? How to add attractive details. How to create climax. And how do you put a satisfying ending to the story? Okay, lesson 1, organization. Well, the occasion is after the first simulated exam, so it's about the second week of the semester, because on the first week they have the first simulated exam. 第一次的模拟考，模拟考完之后 I get all their writing. I read several of them and I find it was a disaster. They had no idea how to write a story. The story was very short and lack of details. Okay, so I group them, put them in groups of 6 to 7. There are 42 to 43 students in my class. I have 3 classes, so that would take them to a classroom in the library. There are big tables, so I make them sit in big tables, and on each table there are 6 to 7 students with different writing ability. I can see that from their score. Okay, so I put them in different groups. Okay, and my teaching procedure is, so now they have the first script. I don't need to read all of them. I do modeling and instruction first. I give them a sample. A sample is offered, and I ask them to observe the story and break it into 5 parts. Okay, so let's see. It's a picture story. There were 4 pictures. I will show you the pictures here. Yes. Okay, so it's this picture. Okay, the story is based on this picture. This is a handout I gave them. Okay, so there's a man who went to a wedding banquet and he got drunk and he wanted to hail a taxi, but accidentally he got on the police car and he ended up in the police station. Okay, that's what the story is about. Okay, so here is the sample. Okay, so I divided into 5 parts. Okay, and the first part is the setting. It's about, well, who he is, where he went, and what he saw there, the setting. Okay, and then something happened. Everyone talked lively and happily during the meal, including Chris. Being the first friend of the couple, Chris drank a lot in ecstasy because he felt really happy for them. Okay, so I told them this is the happening. Well, before the real problem comes, there's something happening. Okay, and the verbs are very important. There will be a series of actions. And then comes the problem. Later, Chris excused himself and left the party. He stood on the road waiting for a taxi, but unfortunately, he drank too much to stay conscious. Upon seeing a car coming to him, Chris waved his arms immediately, saying, "Hey, taxi," loudly. Then the car stopped. However, Chris wasn't aware that that was a police car, not a taxi. Okay, so well, in instructing the problem, there will be some transitional words like but, unfortunately, however. Okay, and then comes the reaction or the result. Chris couldn't remember anything that happened during the drive to the police office, so the result is that he couldn't remember it. He was waken up by a sonorous sound. "What are you doing? Do you know where it is?" said a police officer. Chris was shocked to death, but had no reason for an explanation. Okay, so the reaction might be some action, or some emotion, some feeling, or what the main character is thinking. And the ending. About 30 minutes later, Chris was allowed to leave, but he was ashamed for his trip to the police office. He apologized to the police officer, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so in the ending part, well, there might be some indicator of time. When was it? And the topic of the whole story might appear here in the last paragraph. Okay, so I point out what should be contained in each part. Okay, and this is my class and I. Okay, so we define each part. And then, teaching procedure 2, I ask them to do some analysis and reflection upon their own writing. So the teacher analyzes another piece. So I do this. Okay, so I pick several other stories based on that simulated exam, what students wrote on that simulated exam, and I analyze the writing. I put it into a setting part, happening part, problem part, reaction part, and ending part. Okay, and they have to do the same thing on their own story. Okay, so that's what the students do. They use a pencil and analyze their own writing in order to see which part is missing in their story or which part is still not enough. So this is a student who is actually very good at writing, but she couldn't write a long story at that time, so each part is very short. And they write a short reflection and they share with each other what should be improved about their story. Well, that's the first unit. And part 2 is about content. Okay, so remember the 4 quadrants? Now they are working groups, so I put them in 6 groups, and for each group I give them a big poster.
We call it placemat, a big poster. So each group is responsible for brainstorming for ideas about the setting, main character, dialogue, action, emotion, and topic about the story, the picture story. Okay, so they will do some reassociation. Okay, I give them about 5 minutes to do that in their own group. Okay, and they have a handout that looks like this. Okay, this is what I give to each one of them. So after they do the group work, I ask them to rotate around each table. Okay, so they will share by rotating to other groups. So they will put a placemat on the table, and they will leave their own table, move to the next table, and they will see what the other groups are writing. And when they are reading, they feel ideas and take notes, put those ideas down on their blank sheet. Okay? And I also told them that if you don't think those ideas are good enough, you are free to add your own ideas. So they can write down their own ideas. They can even correct the mistakes that their classmates make. So like this. Okay, so it's about topic. Well, the story is about a girl who worked very hard at night to prepare for exams, and then she couldn't help it, so she went to bed to sleep. And the next morning she woke up, she was already late, so she rushed to the school. But when she arrived at the school, she found there was nobody in the school because it was Sunday. Okay, so that's what the picture is about. So the topic, they write, don't burn the midnight oil, or to have regular sleep time, or have good time management, never put off until tomorrow what you should do today. Okay, and of course there will leave some very strange marks, you know. They sign their name when they are rotating. Okay, thank you. And, okay, about characters. And there's one thing about the placement is that when I am
walking around, I can find some mistake they make, like here, above there. I think she's trying to say fatigue, but it feels like fatty ugly. So I would take notes of the typical mistake they make, and after I finish the activity, I can show it to everybody. Yeah, so that they can correct it on their own sheet paper. Okay, yeah, and they have a lot of fun, you know, leaving all kinds of pictures, graphics, and signing their names everywhere. That's good, because they are under too much pressure. So we need to give them some time to, yeah, set themselves free. Okay, so and then I model how to produce the ideas and organize those ideas in the story, so students rewrite. Okay, based on the original story they wrote, and then we do peer evaluation and self-assessment. Okay, so that's well, the same student, but after that's the second draft. So she rewrote and she put all the ideas in the story, and it's longer and more satisfying. Okay, and then part 3 is about how to start a story. How to create setting and leads. So still pre-writing, writing, and feedback. Before they write, I give them 5 different ways to start a story, and they do some brainstorming and discussion. What is the appropriate approach for each comic strip or picture? Okay, so well, I don't have enough time, so you have to read on your typical setting, character, or description, or action, or dialogue. Okay, so I show them there are 5 ways to start your story. And then they have to this is their handout. So on it, there are 4 pictures. So what they have to do is to find the most appropriate lead or setting for each picture story, and they just write 4 opening paragraphs using different ways to practice their writing skill, and the final result will look like this.
And after they finish writing, I don't correct. I make them exchange their sheets, so they read the work of their classmates and they choose the best one. So check it. And they have to write down why you think this is the best opening paragraph that she created. Okay. And when I collect all, then I just read the best one. Yeah, and it saves a lot of time. Okay. And so this is the results they created. For the same picture,
they can have different ways of writing, like, be careful, watch out the robbers. Dad shouted to us. We were awakened by Dad at 1 o'clock on September 21st at midnight. When we ran out of our house, it suddenly fell down. Okay, so it started with dialogue and some action. And like this, everything in the view was shaking. Books, lamps, anything could be moved, all fell down. Peter, what are you doing? Run away now. Mom screamed to me, and my family all rushed out of our home. As soon as we got out of the building, it crashed down immediately. Or like this, there's a small village in the east of Japan. Villagers there are happy all the time. Well, it's a general description. Okay, and then some action. Or this one. One morning, Teacher Brian was teaching the last lesson of the English classes. His receding hairlines and boring lesson made Mark fall into sleep, because Mark preferred a handsome teacher and an interesting lesson. So it started with the character. So with the instructions, the students now have more directions to think about how to start their story in a more interesting way, in a more creative way. Okay. Part 4, attractive details. Okay, so The next step is to teach them how to use the attractive details. So I asked them to write about a blah 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 moment, because for some of them it seems it's hard to find a happy moment. I don't know why, but they told me that it's hard. I said, okay, so you can write about a happy moment or a sad moment or I don't know, a nervous moment. Okay, so I do all the things that Sheila told us to do. Okay, so when I asked them to do brainstorming, peer sharing, and they write, and I collect them, and I mark it, and I give feedback. I underline the part which lacks details, and I give instructions on how to create attractive details. Okay, so I don't know why it becomes like this, but you can take a look at your hand now. That'll be more clear. Okay, so I tell them to compare what are the general words and what are some very exact words, how to add details, and also to do some exercise. Okay, so this part is useful for them. I give them 3 examples. Jean slammed the door. Jean slammed the door in anger. Or, okay, I'll get out of your sight forever. Jean slammed the door behind her without looking back, so that they can put more details in their writing, okay? And then I also give them some authentic material, okay, so that they can see how detailed it is, and then they rewrite. Okay, this is the material. The book is very good. It's Chicken Soup for Teenage Soul, because the stories are short and easy to read, and it is about teenagers, okay, and they can get connected to the stories. So I use the stories very often, okay, and this is the first draft. So I underline the part that lacks details, and then she rewrites second draft. And what's different? Well, before, she said, one sunny day, we went to an amusement park in the graduation trip. I will make a trip unforgettable, I promised in my mind. But the second draft, I will make a trip unforgettable, I promised myself in my mind. We stood in an amusement park, the final destination in our graduation trip. Actually, I didn't ask her to change this part, but after reading the story, she just changed it. So I think there is something changing in her mind. There's maybe she learned a better way to demonstrate the story, okay? And there are some details which is not included in the first draft. Okay, well, I think it is time for me to stop, right? Okay, so the last part is about climax and well, how to create a good ending part. If you are interested, maybe I can share with you during the lunchtime. Okay, and well, actually, another teacher in my school is executing the plan, and she's I'm a complicated person. She's a very simple one. So what she does is, well, she introduces the organization part, and then the setting and lead part. So each time she gives the student one picture, and they have to follow the organization. And for a certain picture, they have to choose a certain type of setting or lead. And they do all the process. They create the story and that contains the 5 parts in the organization. And the first sentence, the ending needs to be corresponded to the first sentence, the lead. Okay, so she just did it every time, and she said that she can see a lot of improvement in her students. So I think if you are a simple teacher, then that might be enough to help your students to do basic story writing. That's all. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much for the excellent presentations again. Please, I'd like to invite both teachers up now for questions. So we have to go through it rather quickly, but there might be questions. So, thank you, Are there questions? Yes.
Okay, I have one question for me today. as all we know, to write an English story, students are supposed to have a certain amount of vocabulary words and some basic idea about basic grammatical structures. When you have some students who are lack of the above-mentioned writing content, how do you help them conquer the difficulties they might encounter in a very short period of time, and help them become good writers?
Okay, I think that cannot be, the problem cannot be solved within a very short of time, because it's they need to be trained, regularly to improve their grammatical and to write a story with bigger vocabulary. So actually, last semester I addressed these two problems. Well, I separate them. So in writing class, I train organization ideas. I give them authentic reading to inspire them. They can also learn some new vocabulary and new structure from those stuff they read. And also they are reading magazine. They are reading English Digest. So I ask them to do summary writing. For each article, they do some summary. I show them how to summarize it. So that's another way to train their ability to organize a sentence and to get vocabulary, or some grammar translation, So I will address the problem in different classes.
Other questions?
I think that you both have done a lot of work in your classes, and you've really taken risks to try something new and interesting with your students. I'm wondering how that's impacting your feelings about teaching. Has it increased your satisfaction with your job, or do you feel that you are working harder? What is it like for you as a teacher?
Okay. I worked really hard last semester, and I do feel satisfied, about myself. And there are some other teachers that they see everything I'm doing, and they say, "Oh, this is good. I want a copy of that." Okay, and I'm really happy to share what I have done, because, well, first of all, there are some people who appreciate what I've done. Second, they have another way to use that material, and they will share the result with me, and I can learn something from them. And I think, well, in teaching how to write a story, I've made a lot of progress last semester. Because I have to do this action plan.
So sometimes if you force your students to learn, they do learn, right? So we're the bad people for forcing them to do many things out of their busy schedule, but it's so nice to see that hard work has paid off for a lot of our teachers, and really great to see this kind of professional development, and we hope that this will continue for a long time. So great job.
Okay, I have the same feeling with Avril, because I think before we always think, oh, our students are passive. They will not do this, they will not do that. But after I practiced it, I found they actually enjoy it. Just that we have to be very clear about the schedule. We have to have a clear mind about the test. It's also very important, because students still have to take exams. But I found that not only my students enjoy it, sometimes myself enjoy it too, because I have to think. When I have a problem, I have to think, how can I solve it? And also I will go to my colleagues too. We will talk, and I will ask them how they solve the problem. And then I found every teachers have their own unique way, and I also learn a lot from them. That's what also, I think, teamwork, the part I enjoy. Yes. Okay.
Great point. We urge teachers just to do collaborative work with students. I think it is important also for teachers to share their dialogues and to really work closely with each other in order to make learning a little more meaningful. And I think learning is really both ways, learning from the students and learning from the teachers also. And so I really would like to stress that I'm not trying to advertise our program, but I really do try to encourage that, ongoing dialogue as part of the professional development is really critical and really important. We hope to see more of that in the future.
And I want to answer your question once, because in each story there will be some common typical mistakes that they make, and I will point out some of them that belong to that topic that can help all of them.
Yeah, just as a sidetrack, I've been a marker for writing for the university entrance exams a few times. And I really must say, upon looking at this kind of teaching plan, I was really happy because, one of the biggest problem I had when I was marking the exam wasn't really with, grammar and vocabulary issues. It was with the content, You mark thousands and thousands of similar looking paper, and after a while they all look the same to a marker. So I really think as teachers, while you're trying to, it's important to emphasize that grammar, vocabulary development, but I really just do have to say that content development is so critical from a reader's perspective, and that this teaching plan reminds me of this audience awareness. After all, what you have to remind your students that what you write will be read by somebody, and in this case, it's us, right? And so I really do appreciate great content, And so when you actually see great content, sometimes we forget about grammatical errors because the content is so great. I mean, of course, it has to make sense, so grammar is still going to be important, but I think, I can't overemphasize enough that content development is so critical also. So I was really happy to see that somebody is doing content development, because I always see the end product at the end, and so it's really nice to see that content development is happening. Yeah, that's aside. Nothing related to this, but it's good sharing. Thank you. Any other questions? Or we're all eager to lunch for lunch. Any other questions? Again, we welcome any comments. We can talk during lunchtime, talk to all of our teachers. We have quite a few teachers who went abroad to study past summer. So if you're interested, you want to talk to some of our teachers, feel free to come and talk to us. All right? Okay, so I guess we can break for lunch. Now, I need to find out where we go for lunch.
刘丽湘老师和蓝唯甄老师的分享。那提醒大家，接下来是我们的午休时间。那我们这边现场的2位工读生小朋友会带大家到用餐的场地，那大家请大家就是跟着他走。那这边就几件事情再次提醒老师，就麻烦大家注意，就是如果是参加的是同学的话，那刚刚如果有在现场，就是一早就来拿到我的研习证明的人，那请务必记得过来找我，就是我会帮你加盖主持人、计划主持人的章。然后再来的话，如果说你有研习手册需要盖章的话，一样是麻烦跟我联络，我会帮你盖章证明。然后再来的话，就是我们现场的手册是非常欢迎索取。就是说老师如果说您想要帮亲朋好友多拿的话，就尽量拿。那这个的话，我们就是说，因为想要推广英文教育，所以我们是非常欢迎大家一起来联络报名的。然后再来的话，就是提醒各位，请务必帮忙签到，因为这个对我们来说非常的重要。对，如果说您还没有签名的话，请就帮我们签名确认，谢谢。那我们下午的场次开始的时候， 开始的时间是在下午1点20分会准时开场。那接着开始的报名的发表老师是台北市立立山高级中学的袁正玉老师，以及国立50高级中学的孙雅璇老师。那谢谢各位老师参加，然后请同学给我们谈，谢谢。